Well, we're at Marienplatz. I'm supposed to get off over here, 2 stops from the central station. So this is the famous Hofbrauhaus. I think I'll come by here after the tour and maybe have a late lunch. This is the famous Marienplatz, the central part of the old city of Munich. About 20 minutes away from our beginning of our tour at 10:45. Oh, I got a band here. That last song was from the Game of Thrones, and this is obviously Pachelbel, Canon Fugue. This is the new City Hall, and we're waiting for the Glockenspiel to start moving. At least the bottom one. This is the old City Hall. It's been rebuilt. You can see the top one there moving in circles. There must be about 5,000 people in this plaza right now. All with their cameras out. Memory of the founding of Munich. Apparently Munich is very Catholic, but it was founded in the 11th century due to 2 principal reasons. One was the monks, the other one was commerce, and commerce basically dealt with salt coming out of Salzburg, and the salt was used to preserve food. The monks who were here as well, and the German pronunciation of Munich is München, and the German word for monk is Mönch, so you can understand why they call it München. Apparently there's over 140 beer gardens in Munich, most than anywhere in Germany, in fact probably in the world. And the only rule that they have for opening is it must be 11 degrees Celsius above and no rain. So if there's rain and it's below 11 degrees, they close. This is a statue of Juliet. Apparently there's a legend that says that if you want to find I guess a loved one or a boyfriend or girlfriend, you touch her breast with passion. You can see how their right breast is worn a little bit. So a lot of people looking for someone to date. So this is the Cathedral Church of Our Lady. There's a really interesting legend behind it. It actually was built in the 1400s, 1880 something. In any case, the church wasn't sufficiently financed, so the architect made a deal with the devil to basically say, okay, I'll give you all the money in the world to finish this church, but you can't have any windows. It has to be very dark inside. Well, the architect agreed, but as the church was being built, he ended up putting windows in. And later on, when the devil found out that the architect had done this, he stamped his foot really hard and made a depression on the floor. And apparently, if you touch the impression, you'll have the devil visiting you in your sleep and creating nightmares. Let's go inside and take a look at the thing going on right now. Another interesting fact is this church, Church of Our Lady, actually was a church that Ratzinger, Pope Benedict, this is his church, and so he gave 2 masses a day, and in between he would go to this particular restaurant where we have pork knuckles and beer. Apparently he liked the beer so much that he made a deal with the owner, and a barrel of beer was sent every month to the Vatican, free of charge. So we couldn't see the devil's footprint inside of the church because it's covered up during Mass. It's, I guess, a superstition of some kind. Anyway, that's the legend, but apparently the real story behind it is that the architect went to the bishop, and the bishop says you have to go to Rome to get the money to build the rest of the church. He did so and had a meeting with the Pope at the Vatican, and the Pope said, look, he says, I don't have any money. We're building a Sistine Chapel. I've got to pay this artist, an architect, Michelangelo, a ton of money. He says, you're going to have to raise the money on your own. So basically, the Pope said, look, I'm going to give you all these papers, these indigents, and essentially they wipe out, you can sell them, and they essentially wipe out all the sins of these people. So the architect felt that, that Munich is such a very conservative Catholic city, and it's unlikely that they're going to sell very well. But he came back, told the bishop of the church, said, look, why don't you let them know that we have these papers, and they're going to basically wash all their sins away, and you can sell them. So he made an announcement in church, and of course they sold within a week, and they got all the money that they needed to complete the church. The actual footprint that's been covered up is not the devil's footprint, it's actually the footprint of the architect. So now you know the rest of the story.
And they were right here, the 2 SS cars, making sure that every person was walking in front of this monument that we're doing this salute. Now, after the war, there was this new government, and there was some members inside the government, there was this discussion inside.
So, on this street, on November 9th, 1923, this is where the beer house push happened, where Hitler and his group of thugs basically marched down the streets, and the police were waiting for him. Apparently, a fight broke out, and 16 of Hitler's Nazi followers were killed, along with 4 policemen. Right over here, Hitler in 1933, when he became German Chancellor, he erected a monument for the 16 people, and it was guarded by SS guards at all times, and it was required for any citizen of Munich passing by, they had to basically make the Nazi salute. So people started avoiding using this street, and they basically took another side street, this area, and it got to be that very few people actually passed by the monument for the 16. So they started questioning people who had taken the street just before this, and they noticed a pattern. The same people just basically not wanting to make the Nazi salute on this monument. And they arrested 220 people and sent them to Dachau, where they eventually died. Apparently, the Nazi symbol, which is the number 88, 8 plus 8 is 16, is dedicated to the 16 individuals who were killed during the Putsch. Also, the 8th letter in the alphabet is H. So If you see someone with a symbol or a tattoo, 88, you know he's a Nazi. So this Nazi monument to the 16 actually was taken down after the war. And in this place they put up a monument to the 220 individuals who died in Dachau. And I'll show you. You see these colored paving stones actually. There are over 220 of them. And they're a monument to those people who actually were imprisoned and died in Dachau. So this is a royal palace actually, and it's covers several acres of land. It's used for government offices now. Here's a statue of Hans Joseph. He was a ruler of Bavaria, first king of Bavaria actually. He had a son, and he became prince and then eventually king. His name is Ludwig I. And when he was married, they invited the entire city of Munich out for the festival to participate in the marriage. And basically they had 4 days of festivities. And the town kept on wanting to party, but Ludwig said, look, if you want to continue with this festival, you're going to have to pay for it and you're going to have to organize it. So what they did is they organized it, and they grew bigger and bigger each year. It eventually became what we now call it Oktoberfest. And Oktoberfest is 2 weeks, I think in October the 12th each year. Interesting story about Oktoberfest and what the women wear. And it's called grindels. And apparently if they have a bow on the right side, it means they're taken, they're married, or they have a boyfriend. If the bow is on the left side, they're single. And Munich is known to have a disproportionate number of women to men, so this is an opportunity for the women to latch on to men and vice versa. If the bow is in the middle, then basically it means they're a barmaid, or they're a child. If the bow is in the back, it means that they're a widow. At the back they have the Munich Opera House, and apparently is dubbed as the Unlucky House because it's burnt down 4 times. First time it was built out of wood, and of course it caught fire. Second time they rebuilt it with wood, and it caught fire again, but the townspeople actually came out with barrels of beer and tried to douse the fire out. They were unsuccessful. The reason being is that they started drinking the beer at the same time as trying to fight the fire. And I can't remember the third time it was destroyed, but the fourth time was during World War II and the bombing. Here there's the palace, and apparently they have 26,000 square meters of roof on here. And during the war, the bombing, only about 40 square meters was left. So 99% of the roof was destroyed in parts of the building, so they rebuilt it. You can see from the crowd over there, there's no way I was going to stay in there. It was just standing room only. You have to book a table too, and the place is just too crowded. In fact, one of the waiters had several beer steins in his both hands, almost bowled me over. I guess he didn't like the fact that I was taking my time making my way to the exit. And now for something completely different. This is smoked trout with some salad, so let's see whether we can finish this. Go ahead. So this is where I had a late lunch. Yeah, a little less crowded than Hofbrau, but probably just as good. They had smoked trout with a raspberry sort of sour cream sauce and the onions. Wunderbar.